Hello, everybody. My name is Khambrel Marshall, KPRC, Channel 2 meteorologist. I am ecstatic to be able to have the opportunity to have a conversation with three gentlemen who have played a role in the Houston Ballet that is unique. And it's all a part of this continuing series and in terms of the barriers that are being broken in the Houston Ballet. Has been continuing to happen. There's a whole series of conversations that are taking place regarding those things. And so you may have been able to see them online, some of them referring to the firsts, where they had some of the first African-American dancers, some of them who are currently there. And I have an opportunity here to introduce you to several of the Black male dancers who have been with the Houston Ballet to hear some of their stories. I find it fascinating. I love having these conversations. So let's get started. I want you to meet Daniel Durrett, who is a young man who started at the age of 5, Dr. Lyrica Joy Ministries Ballet School, then trained in the Uptown Arts for 2 years. Cincinnati Ballet Artistic Director Victoria Morgan offered him a full scholarship to continue his training at the Cincinnati Ballet. And Daniel, I want to ask you about that because I know that so often there are times when you need to have somebody to help you along the way. And Victoria obviously was somebody who saw a lot of opportunity and potential in you to be able to do that. So we'll get that from you. 2013, competed in the YAGP semifinals. I looked it up. I know what it is, but I've forgotten now. But you all know what it is. And won first place in classical, second place in contemporary, advanced to the New York City finals, was invited to attend the Houston Ballet's summer course. And during that summer, I was invited to join the Houston Ballet's second company. So during that time, performed in Stanton Welch's Brigade, The Long and Winding Road, Swan Lake, The Bayadere, The Blue, Ben Stevenson's Nutcracker, many, many more. He joined the Houston Ballet as an apprentice in November 2015, was promoted to the Corps de Ballet in 2016, and then joined the Boston Ballet in 2017. Daniel, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you.
You know, I want to introduce the other gentlemen, and then we'll come back and ask you all questions about your careers and how you got going. But I do want to, what role did Victoria Morgan play in your career? And she gave you a start, right? Or saw potential in you anyway?
Yeah, so she actually came to Uptown Arts and just was viewing one of our classes. And I guess she saw something in me that she could help mold me into a professional dancer. So then she offered me a full scholarship to Cincinnati Ballet. And I trained there for 9 years. That scholarship really helped because, you know, for me growing up in Cincinnati, my parents didn't have a lot of money, you know, ballet is very expensive. So that scholarship helped me, you know, afford the dance clothes and the training and then the private training. And then also being able to go to YGP, we had donors to help me book studios to rehearse, costumes, and traveling expenses as well that helped me get to the competition.
That's a great opportunity when someone sees potential in you and gave you an opportunity to do that. Chavo Killingsworth started a little bit later than you did. You started at 5, he started at 16. He was an old man at 16 years old. At the Center for Contemporary Arts and the Alexandra School of Ballet, also trained at Purchase College, Dance Theater of Harlem, and the School of American Ballet. By the way, I saw a nice little YouTube video of you doing a dance. You were a bartender, and you guys, that was really neat. I saw that. Yeah, I do some homework. So
I see.
Anyway, part of the New York City Ballet, became a member of the Richmond Ballet and the Houston Ballet. In 2008, he entered the fashion industry. A little change up. That's an interesting move. After 13 years, started as a freelance stylist, working with Maroon 5, K. Michelle, Kelly Rowland. And later would transition from freelance to corporate. I worked for Burberry, Martha Stewart, Gap, Tommy Hilfiger, Tory Burch, Good American with Khloe Kardashian and Emma Good. So the transition out of ballet, arts though, you still want to stay in the arts, you're still connected in that way, aren't you?
Absolutely, absolutely. Fashion is just another way to tell a story, just like you were able to tell a story within dance. And so I wanted to continue that.
You know, it's interesting that you say that because you do talk about telling the story, and I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I do want to ask you guys all about how you do that because you do tell stories through movement in ballet, and it's kind of interesting. I want to find out how you came to be able to do that with the ease that you do. Rupert Edwards is Rupert Edwards III, born in Kingston, Jamaica. Grew up in Hartford. We talked about this earlier. We have that connection. I used to live in Hartford. Our paths didn't cross at the same time, but I think Rupert got there after I did. But I was able to, thanks to Rupert, I now where I can get some really good Jamaican meat patties here in Houston. So that's good. I'm glad you're able to help me out with that. But he received his training at the School of Hartford Ballet, performed with the Hartford Ballet, American Repertory Ballet, Boston Ballet, Tulsa Ballet, where he was promoted to demi-soloist and most recently to the Houston Ballet. Interesting to note that in 2010, when he joined the Houston Ballet, he performed in works such as Stanton Welch's Swan Lake, Madame Butterfly, La Bayadere, The Rite of Spring, The Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra, many, many more. And currently, Mr. Edwards is a full-time student at the University of Houston as a student in kinesiology. Whew, that's not an easy one. You could have taken a whole lot of different classes. Why kinesiology, Rupert?
Well, initially, when I decided to go back to school, I knew I wanted to do something medical, and I wasn't quite sure which route, but I like working with people, and I like moving, dancing. So the two meld into kinesiology, the study of, how the body moves. And it was,
Sure,
but
sure.
then I took the medical track for healthcare professionals. So then it gave me, so if I later, if I wanted to, go to PT school or, become a doctor, it's too late for me now. I won't do that. But I wouldn't need to take any other classes. This would suffice as the base degrees for all of that. So.
And I know that you still perform from time to time as a guest artist. Are you still doing that?
Actually, yes, I am. It's funny enough, yes, I am, and it was not intended. It's just the way things kind of played out. What happened was, after I retired, I started teaching a bit, and then I think it was Nutcracker was the first thing, because there's a shortage of guys doing Nutcracker, and people just kept calling me to do it. And I just retired, so I said no to them all because I was done. I didn't want any dancing. But then they became a little more insistent because they're like, we can't find any guys. Can you please help us out? And then so I said, okay, I'll do it. And then that one only lasted a weekend, and then another one, and another one, and then it became just like my new job. Every December, every weekend, I'll go to a different city. And there's this one I do every year in Sonoma County in California, which is not bad. Yeah, it's like right in all the vineyards, so it made it easy to say yes. But the good part was they pay really, really well for these type of guestings, and I was able to pay for my entire 4 years of schooling, which I just graduated in July, without any loans or anything. And yeah, so
Wow.
it quickly.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank
That
you.
Awesome.
is
No,
significant.
it quickly shined a light on that what I've done my whole life could also pay for my next life.
That is quite the accomplishment in how you've evolved there. Since we're there, let me start with you and ask you that. When did you first start to have a desire? I know the bio talks about, when you started in terms of, Hartford and all that kind of stuff. But at what age were you when you first began to have a desire and an interest in dance, and in particular ballet? Because it's a little bit different ballet, especially, and I can assume that from Kingston, Jamaica to Hartford, Connecticut, you may not have been surrounded by a lot of people who were doing ballet.
Okay. Okay, so this is actually a pretty funny story because the desire didn't come at first because I kind of fell into it. I was in third or fourth grade in Hartford, Connecticut. And at the time, the local company, this was the Hartford Ballet, which is no longer in existence, but they used to go around to all the public schools and hold open auditions to all the third and fourth graders. And that very day, I had a substitute teacher, and you had a choice. You can go out to recess, or you can go to the auditorium audition for the ballet. I didn't know anything about ballet, so I chose I will go out to recess. And the substitute teacher asked me, "Why? Do you know anything about ballet?" And I said, "No, it's for girls." And then so she gave me a little speech and she said, "Let's make a deal. Go and audition for the ballet. If you don't like it, you can still go out for recess." So I thought, fair enough, you know. So I went, but it wasn't anything special. It was more of a physical assessment. Stretch your leg this way, bend back. They were just assessing what physical, what do you call it, attributes I might have. And so I left feeling not any way about it because it wasn't, we didn't dance. We just, did, poses and things. And so it didn't make an impression as in it was a bad thing or it was a good thing. And in fact, when I left, I didn't tell my parents that I did it. And months went on, and then I got a big packet in the mail saying you made it into a Hartford Ballet summer program. And at the time, they were very, very good. They used to send a school bus to your door, take you to the summer program there all day, and then drop you back at your door. So for my parents, it was very easy. They're like, "You're going," because they didn't need to go anywhere. I just go out to the front yard. The bus comes, I get on, and they did the same thing, returned me back to my front yard, and so did that. But once I went the first summer though, then it was fun because it was, I don't know, it was a few hundred kids, and they were from everywhere. Because the school I went to was it was a big school, but it was primarily just people just like me, a lot of people of color and a few Spanish people. But there was all Asians, and it was there was just so many different people. And the classes we did, we had like stage combat fighting and weird little things like that made it fun for little boys. So we did, and everything was a half an hour each, so nothing was very long. So we did a half an hour of jazz, a half an hour of this, a half an hour of ballroom, and it was just so much fun because all day I felt like I was just playing around and I guess that's what I should have known, that I like dancing because it was just fun. And after that, things went on. They invited me for the year-round program, and then things ballet got longer and everything got shorter until there was nothing but ballet and maybe every now and then modern and then partnering. So they designed it pretty well too.
Before you knew it, you were hooked.
Yes. Yes. And then I discovered what technique was, and then the obsession began. And yes, but
Chavo, I know that you said your dance training at 16, Chavo, but
Yes.
at some point, were you in New York during that time? Are you from New York?
I am actually from St. Louis, but I say I'm from New York because after I graduated high school, that's where I went, straight to New York. So yes, there was training in New York, which started at Dancier of Harlem, and then went to SUNY Purchase. And it's so funny, Rupert, you touched on that. They had a little class here for modern or a class here for improvising, and then there was another class for ballroom, and so I just didn't like all of that. I wanted to focus solely on ballet, and so then I left there and went to School of American Ballet. So yes, that was right after I graduated high school.
And so when you were in high school, so how early do you remember having a desire to do dance? How
It was
young was you?
it was 16. It was the
Really?
summer of my 16th birthday. Yeah. And I had a good friend who was in our dance program at my high school, University City High School. And it was called Kinesis. Get that. It was called Kinesis. And she invited me one day just to go there with her because we were going bowling after her kinesis classes. And I sat there in awe the entire time. And I remember wanting to learn it, wanting to do it because I was just that much in awe. And that's where it started for me.
Daniel, I know you started at 5. Was it by accident that you started at 5, or was there something about your surroundings or something that motivated you to want to kind of take up this dance? And was it ballet at that young age?
So I get that question a lot, and actually because I was so young, I don't really remember why I wanted to start dancing. Apparently I actually wanted to start dancing when I was 3. But then in Cincinnati, there's no classes available until you're the age of 5. So I had to wait 2 years. But I remember my parents being like, I guess I was sitting on the couch and something about the Nutcracker came up and then I was interested. But I'm not sure like why I wanted to start it. I guess I saw something and was like, that's what I want to do with my life. And that was that.
So ballet is different in a lot of different ways than what you might expect to find in neighborhoods where you might have grown up. I'm not sure about your environment, but a lot of times ballet is not something that's right in front of young Black kids for the most part. Did you find any negative attention associated with being a ballet dancer as you were growing up, and how did you deal with that?
Um, I mean, where I grew up, yes, ballet wasn't like right in front of me. I had to, go out of the city and drive to the school every day. There'd be times where like you're little and you have to wear like your ballet clothes to like the grocery store because your parents picked you up. And like, I just remember being so embarrassed because, I would never see other Black kids like in black tights and like a white t-shirt walking around like a Kroger or something,
Mm-hmm.
But I never really had like a crazy negative effect when I was little, I guess because especially my mom would always just be like, just ignore everyone and what they say. But I just always remember feeling so out of place sometimes.
Right, right.
Yeah.
You said that, it almost sounded like you had a little emphasis. You said you never noticed that when you were little.
Yeah.
Did that change as you became an adult?
When I got older, yeah. When I was little, I think I was more focused on just like going to class and like dancing. But then the older I got, the more I realized that, whoa, I was like the only boy, the only Black boy, the only Black gay boy. So it's just like so many things. I was like, I'm the only person here that I can relate to, like in my school. So that kind of took a negative toll on me because, you don't have anyone else that can relate to you. You can't talk to anyone. My parents, they didn't know anything about ballet. They didn't know anything about being gay as well. So there were so many things where I was just very confused on, and I just had to slowly figure it out for myself, I guess.
Coming to the Houston Ballet, was that something that was able to help you through that process? I mean, by the time you got to Houston Ballet, you were far enough along, perhaps, that you may have overcome some of those issues that you were dealing with after you were a little bit younger and whatnot. What kind of embrace did you find in the Houston Ballet, and what was it like as you came to that company?
So my first summer away when I was, I want to say 13, I actually went to the Dancing of Harlem summer intensive. So that was such a powerful impact on me, being around other Black men and women students. So that was very different. But then when I joined Houston Ballet, it was kind of the same thing growing up. I was the only Black person in Houston Ballet too, those 2.5 years that I was in the second company. And so Rupert and Harper were the only other guys in the company that were in the main company that I could look up to. So that was good for me because I could see like, oh, I could become a main company dancer in this company. I could make it, and like my race doesn't have anything to do with that because there are 2 other people in this company that I know that are there as well.
Rupert, did you know that Daniel was looking at you as that kind of role model or somebody who he looked at as an example? And if so, how did that make you feel, and how did you take on that role?
To be honest, I would say no, I didn't think of it like that, only because while you're going about doing, because ballet it's a bit intense in many different ways, but while you're going about your job, so to speak, you tend to get more focused on you and what you're doing, your path. And then I don't know where, well, long ago, I don't know where it came from, but I always thought, I always had a problem with shouldering people, always say, you should bring like the whole race or all men, or shouldering everyone, not in the bad way, but only because I thought, well, instead of trying to, I don't know, be the advocate and go out and do that, why don't I then lead by example, like turn myself into a good representation of everyone else like me, instead of, yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes. So, and well, maybe it was an easy way out, because then I could also focus on what I was doing, but then I will try to do it to represent everyone else in a good way. So I won't, yes,
They give
maybe.
you a little bit more incentive to be as good as you could, to maybe focus on being the best that
Oh
you
yeah, yeah.
could be.
Oh yes, 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 yeah, yes. That, because all that comes with it, because of that, I only wanted to do everything the best that I could do it. Only then, because then it would leave nothing else to say, well, oh, it's because of this or because of that he didn't do it. There's no, yeah, no excuse. Like, yes, and if it didn't work, the blame would be on me if I didn't. You know what I mean? So I
Hmm.
tried to do the best that I could. So then there was nothing else to be said on anything, just solely on what that I did.
So, Chavo, when you came to the Houston Ballet, you'd already been at, you'd already had some dance theater work in Harlem and in that area, New York City Ballet. It seems to me you have been fully immersed in Black culture and Black dance at that time. So when you first got in, is that how you got into ballet and dance? Is that one of the first experiences you had within the Black dance theater?
Um, no, it wasn't. And sadly to say, like Daniel and like Rupert, I started where I didn't, well, not so much like Rupert, but more like Daniel, but I did become aware that I was the only Black person or the only Black male in the room. And that changed over time. And then, yes, going to Dance Theater of Harlem, I got to see what and experience what a room full of Black dancers felt like. So, that also opened my eyes, because then I became aware of the Houston Ballet, because there was this Black ballerina that was dazzling audiences in Houston, and I became obsessed. I remember her being on the cover of Point magazine. I remember reading the story. I remember seeing her nude colored point shoes. It was just it. I wanted to dance with her. I wanted to be amongst her. And it was solely because Houston Ballet was known as a very classical ballet company. And Dance Theater of Harlem was known as a neoclassical ballet, the ballets that they performed primarily didn't tell the story. It wasn't like a story length ballet, whereas in Houston, that's what they did. They told the story with classical ballets. And that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in a classical ballet company and be amongst classically trained Black dancers. And so for me, when I got to Houston Ballet, it was a dream come true. I remember sitting in my little studio room and looking at Lauren on the cover of magazines, and now those dreams and thoughts are now my reality. I'm sitting here in the studio, and I am 3 spaces away from Lauren Anderson, and I am here. I am here. So, and I did. I felt that I was standing on the shoulders of those who came before me. So at that time, it was Lauren Anderson, it was Caleb, it was Cleopatra. They were all there before me. So I felt like I was standing on their shoulders when I became a part of the Houston Ballet.
So the whole concept of the series we're talking about breaking boundaries and barrier breaking and all of those things together, it sounds to me like the Houston Ballet was ahead of its time in terms of creating that. Is that the kind of, it sounds to me from your experience, Chavo?
Absolutely. You just did not see a Black ballerina on the cover of a Point magazine. It wasn't heard of. And for it to have been done in such a boisterous way, it was it was mind blowing. Like that's stuff I dreamt about. I didn't think it was a reality. Not only was it a reality, and then for me to be a part of that reality it was a dream come true. It really, really was. And I used to tell Lauren almost every day for months how I would see her on YouTube videos and on the cover of magazines, and how I dreamt that this would happen, and it finally did, and how I was such in awe of her, and how she inspired me, how she planted the seed in me. And so yes, it was very, very far and few. And I think that's why that moment was so impactful for me.
So Chavo, what you're telling us is, well, you were an early stalker of Lauren Anderson. Is that what you're telling us?
Absolutely.
Daniel, what was your attraction? What drew you to want to be in Houston, or did it happen by happenstance?
What drew me to Houston Ballet was the men's program. Like I said, in Cincinnati, there were not a lot of guys in my class. So then when I was offered a position with Houston Ballet, or the summer intensive, I noticed that there were so many other guys there, and like they get to do partnering and, you know, men's technique stuff that I was not too familiar with. So that's what drew me in, because I knew I needed those steps to get to a more professional level. Mm-hmm. And also as well, Lauren being there as well, I was like, okay, well, she's part of the outreach program. Like, I will get to see her a little bit, and I would always talk to her any chance I would get. And she would coach me a little bit too when we did Sleeping Beauty and stuff, which was amazing.
So the kind of mentorship, is it different when you're getting that kind of mentoring from someone who happens to be Black? Or is there a difference at all in terms of how you're interacting with other dancers along the way?
Yes, I think it is different. I feel like getting mentorship from someone else who's Black is incredible, and they understand how it is. They understand what situation you're in. You know, I was doing Bluebird, and Lauren was helping me with some partnering stuff. And she was like, you know what? Like, I get it. Like, you're Black, but you need to turn out. You cannot just do certain things because, you know, you're a guy and you're behind the girl. Like, you're not being noticed. Like, we can still see you. Like, Lauren always be like, you're Black. Like, people will be looking at you. Their eyes are on you, you know. There's so many white ballerinas out there, but there's not a whole lot of Black male dancers out there, so they will be looking at you. And you need to look the best that you can do in order to get to where you want to go.
Is that a source of inspiration or intimidation, or combination of both?
Combination of both. But mostly to help you, but a combination of both for sure.
So, Rupert, when you got to Houston, I know that Chavo said he made a beeline because he knew about Lauren and some of the. What was the reputation of the Houston Ballet that made you want to be a part of the company?
Well, I'll agree with everyone else. They all said exactly what I would say. They had a great reputation to begin with, just as a good company. What the rep that they did was amazing. And then the dancers that they had were amazing. And also, they were the only diverse company that I knew of. Way back when I was in school, we used to watch, someone made a video cassette, a VHS tape, this is how old I am, of all the male solos. And it was circulating around the US because everyone knew about it. You made a copy of it, and it had Carlos Acosta on there and a bunch of other guys. And Lauren Anderson, which partnered with him probably for everything, most things, will come out right after to do her Fuates. And then, you know, since it's a male tape, it always cuts off midway. And then that was the first time I saw that there was a lead female Black ballerina. And then the school I went to also had a lot of Black dancers, male dancers, because they recruited from the inner city. It was an inner city program. So they gave scholarships to a lot of public school people, such as myself. And so yeah, we saw that and we're like, wait, what was that? I was like, who's? So then we had to search her out, like, who's this person? And then we found out, she's a big deal, and she's actually the principal of a classical company in Houston. And yeah, when we looked it up and we got, found out who Ben Stevenson was, and so I already knew all about the lineup, and it was always a great company. It was all in my mind. It was always a great company. So having the opportunity to join it or dance here was always going to be a pleasure or a dream. Yeah.
So as you come there, everybody has these experiences in life. I've had them in my 45 years in broadcasting, and I can tell you that there've been wonderful times. But there've also been some times that I look at and say, ugh, well, I'm glad I'm done with that. I don't want to have to go through that anymore. Did you have any of those kinds of experiences in the Houston Ballet that you would rather kind of say, okay, I'm sorry that happened, but I learned something from it?
Yes. I mean, yes, the nature of the whole ballet industry itself, there's a lot of those moments, just even on the very simple fact that it is a day-to-day sort of competition.
Mm-hmm.
So, once I retired, that was one stress I didn't miss, just yes, every day is a quote unquote audition. And it felt like, even, yes, you might have gotten the part for this one, but then the next ballet. So then the cycle starts again. And then, it just, you're always proving yourself, which serves a good thing. When you're young, you learn, how to, persevere. But as you start to get older, you poke holes in it, because then at a certain point, then you thought, well, you should know certain people by now, and trust certain people that have delivered, and or but yeah, so it just, that part of it is, it's a rigorous routine. It's like being a soldier, I guess.
Right.
And at some point, every soldier wants to go home.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
proud you serve your country, but at some point you don't want to fight another war. Yeah.
Chavo, you were not far from Lauren Anderson, feeling great about being there. Anything about your experience that stands out that says, okay, you know what? That was not right. It could have been different, and I'm sorry that happened, but I learned from it. Anything like that? Any experience for you in the Houston Ballet while you were here?
Absolutely. I will say that the lesson that I've learned, and I'll give some backstory on this lesson, but the lesson that I learned is to not allow others control your destiny. And with that, I was unhappy for various reasons towards the latter years that I was at the Houston Ballet, and I was trying to figure out my next move. And I wouldn't say I had the best or the greatest relationship with the artistic staff there. And so I auditioned, and I remember receiving a phone call from ABT, and it was their company manager. And she called and said that we have a quarter ballet contract for you, but the only thing is we need you in New York by the end of next week. And at that point in time, I was still under contract with the Houston Ballet. And I shared that with her. I said, I still am under the contract with the Houston Ballet. And she said, well, I can have, the artistic staff reach out to the artistic staff at the Houston Ballet to see if they would allow you to exit your contract early. And I said, no, please don't. They don't know that I'm auditioning. And I regret that. I wish I would have said yes. I wish that she would have, ABT would have called, and maybe the outcome would have been different. I would never know, but I wish I would have pressed forward with my vision and my goals and wanting to dance with another company. I wish I would have said yes. So that was a huge, huge life lesson for me.
Do you think any of that process had anything to do with your color or anything about that? Or was it just about you as a dancer? Did it have anything, was it in a silo just about you as a dancer? Or was there some things that were, and the reason, should go back and mention that the reason we talk about these conversations with boundaries and barriers that we're dealing with here has to do with what happened after George Floyd was killed. And it just heightened the emphasis on how lives matter and how sometimes people don't take into account the significance of someone else's life because of perhaps they're different in color, they're different in ethnicity. When you were making those decisions about whether or not you were going to go to this other company, was anything circulating in your mind? Did it have to do with anything, have to do with race, or just have to do with you being a professional dancer in the Houston Ballet?
Well, it had to do with both of them, honestly. You know, like I said, I was there with Lauren and Caleb and Cleo, and I saw how that director at that time, that artistic staff treated Lauren in her later years. I saw the disrespect. I saw the belittlement that was rendered to her, and I saw it. I saw the same thing with Caleb. I saw the same thing with Cleo, and I started to experience that. And I'm not sure if they were cognizant of it, but it was definitely a pattern. And that is my experience, and I was there to witness it firsthand. And obviously, I don't need anyone to validate it because I saw it. But yes, that did play a part in me wanting to explore different options, because I didn't feel as though we were valued as much as other dancers in the company. I didn't feel that they felt that we were an asset to them. I felt at times that they were just trying to meet a quota, meaning having one black guy, one black girl, or one brown girl, one brown guy, just to say that their company is diverse. Yeah, it played a large part in wanting to move on to the next opportunity.
And so at some point, I know Rupert said, you want to be a good soldier, but every good soldier wants to go home at some point. There's a point in your life where you progress, and perhaps it might have happened anyway, but because you're only just a few within the company, was it more magnified, do you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think if we were a company of all black and brown dancers, I don't think it would have been so like a light shining so brightly on it. I think it would have been like the nature's course, if you will. But it definitely felt like it was like a single out, we're singled out. And I wish it would have been different. I really, really do. I wish my experience would have been different.
So the question then becomes for you, and I'll come back to you, Chavo, but Daniel and Rupert. Daniel, you first. How have things changed through the years? I mean, you're still quite a young guy, Daniel. I mean, I think I have socks older than you. So in terms of your experience as a dancer, you're still out there and you still are youthful. You have a career ahead of you if you want it. How have you seen the atmosphere change as it regards Black male dancers in your profession? Are you seeing improvements in what's going on in the industry?
I've seen some improvements, but there's still some little things that I have encountered and witnessed as well, that they do kind of shine a light on certain dancers of color just because they do want to meet a quota, or they do want to show that the company is diverse by putting their Black dancers on the poster, but then like not casting them as that role. So it has changed because, a lot more companies are now hiring more dancers of color and trying to mold them into the dancers that the company would like them to be. But at the same time, a lot of classical companies only hire a certain race, I feel like. And I think that's the biggest problem, classical ballet, like you just need the technique. If you look a certain way, that's okay. And I feel like that still needs to change in the world of classical ballet.
Well, I know, I happen to know Lauren Anderson fairly well through the years, and I know her attitude was like, okay, so what?
Yeah.
She would say, I know you're used to having somebody there who's white, but I'm not, so let's just move on forward.
Exactly.
You find that kind of attitude has helped in some regards, but it doesn't sound like the progress that could be made is being made from what I'm hearing
Yeah.
from you.
I mean, I feel like that attitude now, I guess it depends on the person, you know. Lauren Anderson's like a legend, so for her to have that attitude is fine. But if I were to walk up into my company and be like, you need to cast me in this role because, you know, like I want to do it or whatnot, I would be fired. Like it just would not be acceptable. I guess dancers, we are taught to be kind of submissive a little bit when it comes to like artistic staff and the people in the front of the room. You have to act a certain way and you have to always be on guard. And I don't know.
Yeah, and that's kind of
I
what Rupert.
wouldn't be able to do what Lauren Anderson did.
Well, few can, so that's
Yeah.
a big company. But Rupert, you kind of mentioned that as well. At some point, there's always some sort of competition, is there not? And so you kind of always have to be on point. The question I have for you is similar to what I asked with Daniel and Chavo, and that is, what kind of progress have you seen just before you got out of the company in Houston? What kind of progress have you seen in terms of the opportunities for Black male dancers in your profession?
I'm gonna answer it, but a little more general, not just Black male dancers, but just Black dancers in general. Only because when I started teaching after I, started working with the academy, and one year I got to go on the audition tour for the academy. And we went to different cities and hold auditions, and you choose kids, and it was interesting being on that side. But I started then seeing the schools because we go to other companies, their school, and hold auditions there. And this was now after Misty Copeland became very famous, and suddenly I saw a lot of Black kids in ballet schools, like usually, you like Daniel and Chavo said, you see the one or the two, but I now see a lot of Black kids doing ballet, So I think this is where it starts. So the change, I think, yes, happening slow, small, but the change is occurring because now, yeah, in part by like everyone else who paved the way, Lauren Aniston, Misty Copeland. Now it's shining a light on that sector. I think they give them an image to look up to now. Now it's before, if you never see anyone like you do something, it's likely you're probably not going to dream to do that because you probably think
Sure.
that you're not supposed to do that. But now, they're showing, you know, people of color. Oh, there's I forget her name. Man, the South African girl. I think South African girl. She danced with English national or head national. But yes, yes, But so with and these are still countable, so it doesn't really count. But the fact now, maybe the internet and the media, social media is helping this. Kids are now seeing, some representation, and it's driving them to want to do it. So now I think that's where the change is coming, because then the next generation has the confidence, and that was not there before, because instead of at the head of the plow paving the way, they got to see, there's a way being, opened up for them, being shown to them, and yeah. So I was happy to see that. That was like one of the best part, about doing all that, was to see what the future is looking like. And like I said, yes, it seemed like change to me, but yeah, it is a small change and it's a slow change because we have to wait for it to, and see what happens if they foster this, and actually, they actually make it to a fruition in, good enough numbers to, do some sort of, yes.
Sure. So, Chavo, you're out of the ballet part now. You're still an artist, clearly an artist, and you talked earlier about being able to use your body to interpret, basically. And so, I want to go back to that because I didn't want to forget asking you about that, because it's fashion, it's design, but you're able to show your artistic work through that way. What is the challenge for someone who's a professional dancer to be able to actually use your body to tell a story?
There are many challenges, actually. It really is, because when you are a dancer, you're trained to think a certain way. You know, you're trained to think, you know, technical steps and technicality and musicality and, you know, being able to dance as a unit. So there, your mind is programmed differently. And the only common denominator that I experienced coming from dance into fashion was the fact that you can tell a story. Now, whatever story that is, you know, that's left up to you. So I had to change my mindset, because I wasn't dancing with a company. I wasn't dancing with, you know, or a lead female or a partner. Like, this is, sometimes fashion can be individual, and you have to really think for yourself and have to tell your story yourself. You can't rely on someone else to either inspire you or kind of get the words that you're looking for, and then you know, carry on. But fashion is definitely, for me, it's very individual. Like, you have to look into yourself for it.
So, as a dancer, you're telling a story. In fashion, you're telling a story. Tell the story about how Black male dancers have achieved and what more is on the horizon for them as far as you can see. Pull out your crystal ball and tell that story about where you've been as a Black male dancer, and based upon where we are now, the potential for what's going to be happening going forward. With the background in mind, of course, Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, all the other instances that have happened that have heightened the interest of non-Blacks to want to be more understanding. You know, we've had this unintentional bias that goes on in our society, and a lot of that has impacted you and your profession like it impacts everybody else. But tell that story about how you see this progressing up to now and where you see it going forward.
Well, up to now, I think we have come leaps and bounds, but there's still yet work to do. I remember right before I left the Houston Ballet, and I forgot this young man's name, but he was a Black guy in, I guess it was the Houston Ballet Company 2. And although I never shared this with him, I felt though I left a good impression, just like what Rupert was saying earlier. Like, I felt like I left a manual of how to carry yourself, how to act, how to present yourself, how to be on point, how to be technical and have musicality. I felt like I was a great representation, not to sound narcissistic, but I felt like I went through the steps in order to do so, and that was the end result. So I felt like I left a great role book, if you will, for him to step into. And where I see it going in the future, I'm very optimistic. So I believe that it's onward and upward. I feel that Black men dancing in dance today have some of the best opportunities to achieve all of their goals, because the work that has been done is now being able to, I feel they're benefiting from the work that has already been done. And the work that they're going to do will go far and well beyond from the work that I did. So I feel that it looks great. I really do. I feel like it's very promising. It's very hopeful. It's very inspiring. And I feel that they can achieve things that I never thought I could. So I feel like it looks great for them. It really does.
Daniel, do you feel that where you are? Do you get a sense that there is great potential going forward in terms of where Black male dancers can achieve within your profession?
Everything to do with social media and everything else, I feel like he was saying, there is a better representation of Black male dancers, you know. This summer, me and a bunch of other male dancers from other companies, we put together this video of us just improving in our kitchens and whatnot because everything was shut down. And it went viral because so many people were like, wow, look at all of these talented young Black male dancers. And everyone's from different companies like Complexions, ABT, Dancing of Harlem, and so on. And it's about, I don't know, I guess there is a lot of progress, but there still needs to be more. You know, I feel like some people are just uncomfortable with being in a classical company because of their color, and that needs to change. You know, there's a lot of other things like flesh shoes, like not being able to wear not be able to get the right color for you, so then that can get a little discouraging, and it'll make you feel like, well, if the white people are able to get flesh tone shoes, then why can't I get a literal brown shoe? Like the color brown, like it's so easy to make. But you know, now other shoemaking companies are coming up with all of these shoes, but not until after all of this Black Lives Matter has like started. Like Freed of London and like Block, all of these like really big brand shoe companies are coming out with shoes only after. But we've all been asking for this for so long. So that's something that needs to like change, I feel like. Because also companies, yeah.
You see, someone who's from the outside of the industry would never have thought about that.
Oh yeah. We need flesh tone shoes just as much as other people do, you know. Same thing in fashion too, like having like a mesh, something that like matches your skin really shouldn't be that hard to make. But the fact that it took them years to make is like kind of scary. But in a way, I guess it is good progress, because now we can get those shoes that we need in order to fit in and just be like everyone else, you know.
So it sounds like something, at least in that category, and other ways too, I'm sure, something is good that's coming from the heightened awareness about ethnicity in our country. Rupert, I'm gonna let you finish up today by talking about how the awareness has elevated what's going on within the dance world. Obviously, Black male dancers and female dancers, for that matter as well, are not immune from what's going on in the world around. How much do you think it is going to impact positively the fact that at least people are thinking more about ethnicity and the place and how equality plays a role in what's going on in your profession?
Oh, great question. Yes, and obviously I've been thinking about this just because it's happening now. You know, which is part of what I like, and I think this is one good thing that the pandemic brought forth was I feel people had time to sit and watch before, because I got all the headlines before. I read them, but I didn't read the whole story. I just read the blurb, and next, I'm always running to somewhere else, but I'm like, oh, another one, and then you move on, but then the pandemic happened and everyone was on pause. And then this happened with George Floyd, and I'm sure every other Black person was like, there's some, yeah, and I wasn't too okay, to be honest. Probably should edit this part out. I wasn't too shocked because I've heard these before. I've seen these before, and I know nothing never happens. So I'm never very, when I see it, I'm like, all right, it'll be news until tomorrow. And so when it kept going, day after day, and people were talking about it, and it kept getting bigger and bigger, and then I started to notice that it's becoming something. And then I started thinking, like, so what's different? I mean, there's always been other video recordings and whatnot, and and like, what's different? And then I started talking with some of my friends, and they're like, everyone's watching it. They're sitting watching it, and they have time to think about what they're seeing. They're not busy, because everyone was not busy at the time, so they actually got to sit and think about exactly what is it that we're seeing, besides the stereotype that you put with it when you initially see something. Like, oh, he must have done something that deserved that, or but if you actually sat there, I forget, 8-minute video, whatever, how long it is, and the longer it goes on, the more you start to then wrestle with the idea of how wrong it is what you're seeing happening, despite anything that might have, led up to it. It should still not happen this way. And then you start to question, then, is that, how human is that of us to see that and then say, oh, it's okay, and move on, And I think this was what's happening now. And so this awareness, I think, that was happening, obviously transferred over into the dance world, because it transferred everywhere. And I because of the pandemic, I started watching the stocks. So, and every CEO and executive from some company, this is another shocking part that I found too, because, usually, normally it will, there's a spark, but the fire never starts. But they were stepping up, not just with words, with actions. They were putting millions, hundreds of millions behind, certain efforts to make it better and, make it right. And, I felt like people actually saw, and then they actually thought about it, and then they went out and tried to make a change. And when I was watching some of the protests, I don't like to watch too much because, yeah, it's heavy. And so, but I watched some on TV, and it was also good to see that it wasn't just Black people out there supporting. You know what I mean? So then it goes to show that, like, people in general, the country was watching, not just I'm watching,
Do you think that fosters some level of inclusion in the ballet world now as well? And if so, in the Houston Ballet?
Yes, but yes, I think it does, because people now are talking about it like we are here. Because for me, I treat talking about race like politics and religion. So I don't talk about it outside of people I don't know that well, because it's one of those things. And sometimes I feel people, when they do, before this, people, when they do ask you, it was more of like a reaffirmation of what they think. They're like, it's not like that, really, right? It can't be, So, I always, I try to avoid it, just because I know that they're not really listening.
Right,
And,
right.
so, but now I feel that people actually, they heard, they sat, now it's a matter of they're doing. Now it's a matter of, how much and how far are we going to, take it to get it right.
Chavo, do you think people are listening? And do you think that as a result of their listening, that the level of inclusion will be better in the ballet world and maybe in the Houston Ballet as you remember it?
Yes, I do. I really do. I feel like people are listening. I feel like people are woke, and that's what's needed in order to have a constructive conversation around outlining truth about race in America. So, and I think when those conversations happen and they continue to happen, I think improvement is bound to be the end result. And I think that that could be the end result for Houston Ballet. Absolutely.
So, Daniel, you're still in it. You're still at it. You're at Boston now, but you're still actively involved in this business. Are you sensing that the level of focus on what's going on in our country, around us, in the world, that inclusion will continue to happen in a more embracing way? And do you sense that the what you left behind in the Houston Ballet, that the quality that you left behind has the ability to also be more inclusive?
I feel like it will be better for the younger students. Here at Boston Ballet, we are starting like a new mentorship towards, kids of color. And we will bring up, the topic of like the Black Lives Matter and other things to just help them, I guess, cope with everything, and also give them insight on how it is as a Black dancer in this industry.
You said that that Lauren and others around you were able to be mentors to you. That was an informal kind of process.
Yeah.
And you're starting it now in a more formal way in Boston.
Yeah.
Is that what's necessary across the whole industry, that there's a more formalized mentorship from and with and among Black dancers to make it better?
I feel like that would be great. I feel like that would be great for every student of color, just so they feel like they don't have to do it alone, you know, but also it's good for the mentors as well, you know, helping the the next generation come in, and so they can do better and they can do more. Like it'll keep building up more and more. Back when I was in Ohio, I didn't have that. I didn't have someone that I could just like go under their wing and like they would help me through certain situations. So I feel like it's our duty as current dancers to help them get into the groove that they want to get into. And whether it's dancing or whether it's auditioning for a new company or changing their career move, they know that they can rely on someone of color to back them up.
Well, I think it's been a great opportunity to have this conversation with all of you, Daniel, Chavo, and Rupert, understanding the progress that you made and how you got involved with the Houston Ballet, the positives and some of the not so positives that happened there, but also mostly positive. And we all know that Lauren Anderson has big fans among you guys for what she's been able to do, setting the standard for you both, for all of you going forward. So I appreciate you taking the time out to have this conversation. Good luck as you continue on there in Boston, Daniel, and Chavo in New York, wherever you're breaking and shutting and having new barriers that you're breaking down. Looking forward to hearing anything new coming out in fashion for you. What's the latest for you that's going to be happening we should keep our eye out for?
Well, I am now located in Los Angeles, and I'm working with a brand called Good American, and we have a new category that's launching October. Just stay out on the lookout for it. It's launching in Nordstrom's. It's going to be a huge launch, and I think it's going to be very successful.
Rupert, you've got your degree now, kinesiology. What's next for you?
Next, well, I'm gonna decide grad school, and then I'm also looking into maybe doing some research in exercise science research. There's some interesting field. I was always interested in how also we can help the dance industry in their their care, their well-being. The Houston Ballet partners with the Methodists, they do very well, but you know, there's a lot of information out there, especially for sports, because they have the money to have all that, you know, research and everything. So I was always interested in how can we adapt some of that, you know.
Well, one of the common denominators, clearly, established by the Houston Ballet, is that they recruit quality, talented, smart, successful young men and women for their companies. You three represent all of that and more. Can't wait to hear what's going to be happening for your futures. Thank you for giving us your time today. Congratulations for what's happened up to now. Congratulations on what you're going to be doing in the future. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.